Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Monday, March 21st, first day of spring, episode of StudentLoanJustice.org. My name is Alan Collins. We are the oldest, largest, and in many ways only true grassroots group fighting only and absolutely for student loan justice. That means two things: the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans, and that's number one, believe it or not, and maybe we'll get into that a little bit tonight. Number two, we're calling for the cancellation of all federally owned loans. The lending system is toast. It is a big government monstrosity that at this point needs to be taken to the bath and drown in the tub. And that's a very conservative thing that I just said, by the way, aka Grover Norquist. Speaking of conservatives, I am very glad to have with us tonight a very special guest, a member of ours for at least a few years, Kyle. How you doing, Kyle?
Hey, how you doing, Alan? Pretty good.
Hey, so Kyle comes to us from the belly of the beast, Washington, D.C., and by way of, I think, kind of hard-scrabble Pennsylvania, if I'm not mistaken.
I was originally from Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania.
Okay, good. That's my grandfather and my grandmother both from there in Western.
Yeah, I remember us talking about that before.
Yeah. So I'm just glad to have you on, Kyle. And for those of you in the audience, if you have any questions or comments, and you're watching us on Twitter or Facebook, and if I can see them, which is never a guarantee, but if I can, throw them out, and we're happy to toss them around and see what we can do with them. But Kyle, I'm so glad that you're here with us tonight. You know, I mentioned conservatives, and I don't want to put you in a box. I know life is very complicated, and a lot of people don't like to be put in holes. But it would seem to me that you sort of sway a little bit, lean a little bit to the right. I've noticed over the years, and
honestly, I'm like a conservative patriot. You know what I mean? I don't align myself with any of the political parties, you know. So,
and I think a growing number of people feel exactly the same way.
Yeah, I like following the Constitution and just the values of our founding fathers, stuff like that, like their plan. So,
basic stuff. Yeah, I get you on that. And, of all the things, the partisan wars that we see on the internet, all the culture wars and so forth, it's really interesting. People should know that there are a lot of conservatives out there with student loans. In many ways, this whole issue has been stuck in the partisan divide, where the way it's caricatured in the press is like the Democrats are for us, the Republicans are against student loan borrowers. And well, I mean, there's some truth to that. And by the way, we're a very nonpartisan group. We pretty much hate both parties at this point.
I mean, in reality, they're both against this. You know what I mean? I think there's a few like advocates on the Democratic side, but not that many. You know what I mean? There's like a few.
Yeah. Well, let's look at our number, and I don't want to bash the Democrats. Don't take me wrong, but
not at all. I'm just saying that I think they're both working against this. I think the Democrats are kind of more in secret. The Republicans are kind of more upfront, but
Right. And I think you hit the nail on the head, frankly, Kyle. We were supporting Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and people like that during the last presidential campaign. But ladies and gentlemen, I have to say that Elizabeth Warren's up to $50,000 loan cancellation proposal, it's a trick. I mean, we're glad to see it. We're glad to see that they're even talking about the concept of canceling loans by executive order, something that started with this group in many ways with our petition that we started March 2020. But that up to $50,000 is really kind of a trick, ladies and gentlemen. Up to could mean almost anything. And if the lawyers in Washington, D.C. have their way, it will mean almost nothing for almost everyone. So Kyle, tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your story? What's your background, and so forth?
Well, like I said, from Western Pennsylvania, grew up there, went to college in Williamsport, Pennsylvania College of Technology, and then got my bachelor's degree in construction management. Decided to do a master's out of a lot of advisement from like a lot of school faculty in my family. So I went ahead and did it. I got my master's in construction management.
Are you the first in your family to go to college, or?
No, but
just curious. So you also have a few family connections to the student loan thing. Is that right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think of quite a few of my cousins are in a lot of student loan debt, but they don't really talk about it. You know what I'm saying? It's just not. I know I heard one cousin say, I'm always going to have a mortgage and a student loan payment. I just accepted it. You know what I mean? It was just like that, just saying I'm defeated. You know what I mean? I'm just going to do
Right.
it. I'll pay
Right.
the $500-600 student loan every month.
And that's one of the things, and just so people out there realize, and I kid you not, this is absolutely true. Most student loan borrowers are either Republican or independent. We just broke this news last week, believe it or not. So Pew Research found that as of 2014, people with a college experience, whether they graduated, whether they didn't graduate, it was about a 50-50 split between left and right in 2014. But the Gallup poll found that since 2014, the nation has shifted a little bit to the right. So I kid you not when I say that most student loan borrowers identify politically as being either conservative or independent. And Kyle, it's another reason I'm so glad that you're here tonight, because for whatever reason, conservatives out there with student loans, they tend to be really quiet on the subject. And I don't know, we don't have enough time to go into why that may be the case, but I just think it's so important for conservatives out there to stand up and speak out.
The thing is, Alan, why they're so quiet is because, there's a lot of, in the conservative thing, it's like a lot of like taking responsibility for, I'm not saying responsibility for your own actions, you get it. It's just a discipline thing. Like it's obedience. I think it's what it is.
Right. I think there might be a little bit of machismo, and it's not a manly thing to stand up and say, "Oh, I've been victimized. I'm a victim." No.
Yeah, exactly. And
I totally get that.
A lot of that macho attitude, but that's just the surface. But it's destroying people inside. You know what I mean? Nobody, no matter what side of you're on, right or left, nobody wants to go out and admit that they screwed up or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So
right. Exactly.
Because you get this feeling of like, you're ashamed, you're a failure. And it was just like, people told you how to do this your whole life. Or if you didn't do this, you were going to be a bum and the debt would pay for itself. So it's like, first you tell me to come do this, brainwash me my whole life. And then after I do it, it's like, oh, well, you shouldn't have did that. It's like, what?
Right. I'm reminded of that. What's that movie? Oh, shoot. I'm going to mess this up. There's a movie where Kevin Bacon was a security guard at a juvenile facility, and him and his buddies raped a bunch of the kids.
Oh yeah, dude. I couldn't watch that whole movie, man.
That movie was so hard to watch. I know. But at the end of the movie, they run into that son of a bitch at a restaurant. Yeah. And he's like, "Yeah, you guys deserved it. You guys had it coming." And he was trying to talk his way out of it.
Oh yeah, I remember that scene. Oh my!
I don't want to spoil the ending for people, but it did not end well for Kevin Bacon. But but yeah, this whole blaming the victim thing, that's what this whole con relies on. People are ashamed and they feel intimidated and they feel like it's all their fault. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that 80% of all federal student loan borrowers were never going to be able to repay their loans even before the pandemic.
I never once paid anything towards my principal. Nothing.
Oh, you've paid a lot though, am I right?
So and so. I mean, I was luckily just actually started paying when COVID kind of hit. So
right.
This pause right here is just like saved me financially. Like I would have been like in financial ruin with all that interest.
Right.
Growing up, if this didn't happen, it's been like the best thing that's ever happened. I've been able to save money. I have enough money to save for a down payment on a house right now, but I don't want to go out and buy a house yet when I know that, these could be might be forgiven or not going to be forgiven. So,
Right. And I think that's a real conundrum that a lot of people are going through right now, and which brings me to SoFi, by the way. A lot of people out there refinance their federal loans into private loans, like through companies like SoFi. Seemed like kind of a smart thing to do a few years ago, but now I'm not so sure. We could be looking at full and total loan cancellation. And
I was actually thinking about doing that, Alan, a while ago, but it was just like something seemed to me. It was like, as bad as the federal government is, or the student loan system, I mean, I think they are a little bit more lenient with that stuff instead of like, because you're basically borrowing money from like a creditor at that time with like Sophie. So like
Right.
they don't mess around, man. Like you're late on
Right.
a payment or something, your credit score is going to go down. But more, I think they're more willing to put your loans on forbearance with federal loans than they are with that. You know.
Right. And people out there should be aware. Just because you get a loan, your loans channeled through SoFi, bankruptcy protections still do not exist for those loans, and that is the most predatory underpinning of all student loans out there.
So you're saying people are refinancing, and then they're saying, "Oh, well, if I refinance, I can get bankruptcy."
Well, I mean, you would think that, you know, if you put your student loans on a credit card, for example, yeah, you'd have all the same bankruptcy protections as every other credit card borrower. Not so for these SoFi student loans. So people should be very aware about that. So, hey, I heard some screaming in the background. What was that? You're a family man.
Yeah. I got a daughter. She's crazy. Yeah.
Congratulations. How old?
She's 2 years old.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thanks.
I can only imagine what it must be like for yours and a lot of other young families out there who are trying to work, get paid, raise a family, support a wife and a kid, and handle
definitely. It's hard to like, because my wife's from Brazil or whatever, you know, it was kind of hard to tell her like what I did about my student loans. It's like, you know, I mean, she's down to earth, fully understanding, but it was just like, you know, when you're with somebody, you got to like tell them, you know, I'm like $100,000 in student loan debt. You know what I mean? It's not an easy thing to say to somebody, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So another thing I happen to know about you, Kyle, hope you don't mind me sharing, is that you've done some pretty serious things in your attempt to tackle this student loan debt. Now, just if I could brag for a minute, when I was a little younger, maybe a little older than you are now, I went to Iraq on behalf of a small business without the coverage of the military back in 2005.
Oh, so were you even in an armored vehicle when you were over there?
I was not in an armored vehicle. It was me and a bodyguard, and they wouldn't allow him to carry a weapon. We weren't allowed. Well, he could have knives, but no guns.
So you guys were out. You guys were out in the wire.
Yeah, we were freeballing it in Baghdad as a couple of independent private contractors.
So I meant like out on the wire. I mean, is like you're not like intimate. What was I about to say? On a military base. You know what I'm saying? Like
we were not allowed in the green zone. It was tough, and I'm not trying to say I'm a big hero or anything, but it was rough.
Totally different because that was a time of war when you were there. I was over there when it wasn't a time of war, but you know.
Well, but just that the whole Middle East, I happen to know, is a pretty dangerous place, no matter what's going on.
Yeah,
your compound actually got bombed last week. Am I right?
Yeah, it did. Well, not like they missed them.
They missed them, but all the stuff cracked off the walls, and there was stuff everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you were saying you were over in Iraq for a private contractor, and you know you were over there under. Which I couldn't imagine during the time before.
Well, yeah, but you know, I'm gonna be honest. I was only there for 3 days. So
I got you.
You, I think, were there for what, 9 or 10 months or something like that.
4 months, actually.
Oh, only 4 months. Okay. Well, that's a little more than a vacation. It was
completely different, man. That was the longest 4 months of my life. I swear to God, it still felt like a year. So I'll just explain my story. What happened was, beginning of last year, I'm in construction management. That's my background. You know, I do commercial buildings, manage the whole process. And I had set a link or a request on LinkedIn to one of the recruiters for this company. I'm not going to say their name, but they build consulates and U.S. consulates and embassies all around the world. And I had a friend I went to grad school with. He actually worked for the company. He tried getting me in with the company a few years ago when I didn't have a job. And I was like, oh my God, they want me to travel or whatever. And I was like, where is it at? And they're like, Iraq at all. And it all sounded pretty convincing. It was a really good salary and you didn't have to pay the state or federal income taxes if you were there for an entire year. So, I was like, my friend said they were a great company. So I was like, go ahead, screw it. Let me go. I actually wasn't, I know you said no place is safe, but it was actually probably one of the safest. It was Erbil, Iraq. It's
Erbil.
like Kurdistan region.
Okay.
I stayed there or whatever. It was 10-hour days or 10-hour days, 6 days a week. You know, like they were short staffed too, so it was like really intense work. But you know, my plan was to stay there for a year and pay my loans off. I'm just saying that's how extreme it was.
Well, see, I mean, that right there says a lot. I mean, you're kind of a younger guy. You got a growing family at home.
Oh yeah, I left my wife and daughter back at home. I mean, that wasn't easy, but you know, I had a strong wife. Thank God. Like, you know, nothing bad. She took care of my daughter. You know, took care of my apartment. She was great. You know, because I was very fortunate because I talked to a lot of guys over there, and most of them are single. I'm like, why are you single? Because you know, nobody wants to be with me because, you know, I travel for work. This is the kind of stuff I do, you know. So
right. Well, good for you. I think you're selling yourself a little short. I mean, I think anybody who's going to take the risk of going to the Mideast, pretty much anywhere in Iraq, I mean, that's a dicey proposition in and of itself.
Yeah. I mean, I had to get picked up from the airport in a bulletproof vehicle or an armored
vehicle,
and stay on a camp where we weren't allowed to leave. It was kind of like prison. And then there was a big wall around the camp. There was a bar and restaurant there and everything. And, you know, you go shoot the shit with the guys. But I mean, it's like, dude, now I know what it's like to be in prison. Like, it was like my supervisor put it
in a hot prison too, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You were there spring, summertime,
16 degrees or whatever. But
that's the thing that I really remember about Baghdad and Dubai as well. Dubai was beautiful, by the way. Did you ever get to Dubai? I'm just curious.
No, I wasn't able to.
Oh, just too bad.
It's a funny thing is, so the reason why I quit it wasn't because I was in Iraq. I wasn't afraid of that. It was how badly run the project was being done. And it was just, I have never seen so much like bad leadership in my entire life when I was over there. Like,
hey, we got a couple comments here. So Joanna Kern says, this is amazing. Kara McDougall says, because liberals suck from the government and Republicans work for a living. Okay. Oh, we've got another conservative on the group.
But I mean, I don't know. If you talk about the government, they all suck. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think you and me are more alike than we are different. I'm not a liberal. I'm not conservative. I'm a middle of the road guy.
Colin is actually more conservative on some things than I am. Like, just some things. I'm not saying he's a conservative, but like some things, you know, I'm more liberal about. He's more serious about, you know. So
right. So let's see here. Still looking for more comments on Twitter. So what would you say to the other conservatives out there that are sitting there working their asses off, as Kara rightly says, and they're keeping quiet about their student loans? They know that they're screwed, like 80% of all borrowers, but they don't know what to do. I mean, would you have any more?
I would say to them what you always say to them. It's like, these are the founding principles. We have a right to bankruptcy protections, you know, and I wouldn't say come out and be a victim, but just come out and say, listen, like, these loans are a scam. This isn't right. This is, you know, something that, you know, it's the federal government's fault for, you know, like, who is the one guy running for Congress?
Comments on Twitter. So, sorry about that. Right.
Who is that one guy? Dr. Wayne Johnson.
Exactly. I you know, for the people out there, Wayne Johnson is a Georgia Republican, a Trump appointee who ran the federal lending program. And
as he was saying, is like, the point I want to make is that this is the federal student loan system enables the colleges to extract unlimited amounts of money from the federal government. You know what I mean? It's almost like the federal government is like, what was I about to, or subsidizing these colleges. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like,
you hit the nail on the head
like
there.
The broker, you know what I mean? So it's
right.
like,
you know, conservatives tend to be
these college getting all this money. Like, the government is like literally paying these colleges to operate.
Right.
You know?
That's so true. And, you know, people say follow the money. Follow the money, ladies and gentlemen, particularly if you're a conservative. Where's that money going? It's going to the colleges. It goes over the borrowers' heads. Yeah, maybe they get a couple bucks here and there to spend on, you know, food and room and board and whatever. But, probably, I'm guessing 80% or more of that money winds up going directly over the heads of the students and directly to the colleges. And
Well,
there's
the thing is,
nothing that,
like, the
yeah,
colleges have this party every year. They go and they raise prices, they give each other raises, they do all this stuff,
and there's
So
nothing,
I would
there's,
just say to conservatives, say, like, if you read the Constitution, we have a right to bankruptcy. If you didn't have the right to bankruptcy, that's what causes these loans to get out of control. No consumer protection. So if you would I would tell them, read the Constitution, get familiar with the bankruptcy laws, and say, how could you disagree? Say, well, this is bullshit. I got scammed. Like, I shouldn't have paid this amount of money for school. If there's bankruptcy protections, college would probably be a lot cheaper, because the colleges couldn't demand as much money as they wanted. They would have to only demand what the market called for.
exactly. You're taking the words right out of my mouth, man. And I would just hope that all the conservatives out there that are getting screwed by these loans will stand up. You don't have to cry and play victim. You don't have to do that. This is a scam. People out there should be angry. Not,
well, I think another thing is, most conservatives surround themselves with other conservatives, so it's kind of hard to bring it up to them. It's like, oh, well, you took out that loan, you got to pay it, like, while they're wagging your finger in front of your face. I remember, like, last week there was a post from this girl I went to high school with. She's like, oh, I finally paid my loans off. And I was like, oh, congratulations, it's awesome. And what was I about to say? I said, I'm still losing sleep over mine. And this other person, he was kind of like I don't know, just a prick in high school. He, like, commented below, oh, like, you took that money out, you got to pay it back. And it was like, I didn't even say anything about not paying it. You know what I mean? So it's hard, because if you're in a room full of conservatives, like, they're gonna stab you, man. Like,
they're gonna step right up and do that virtue.
Yeah, man. And another thing is, like, they say freeloaders, is like, I've never heard a college borrower saying, I want my car loan forgiven, I want my mortgage forgiven. It's like, no, because we know those are not bullshit. Like, like, if you pay $250,000 for a house, you're going to get a $250,000 house with all the amenities. You know what I mean? It's serving its purpose. Like, that payment you're making every month, it provides for you. Same thing with a car. You know what I mean? It's at market value.
Right. Student loans.
You're getting what you pay for, and you're not getting what you pay for with student loans.
Exactly. And, people out there watching this, just realize, if you don't have student loans, you probably have no idea what you're talking about.
I have a mortgage because I own a rental property. I have a mortgage. I've had a car loan before. You know what I mean? It's like,
right.
There was never a thought in my head saying, hey, I'm entitled to have these forgiven. You know what I mean? I pay my credit card bill every month. There's never a thought in my mind, oh, hey, someone should pay this credit card for me. No, it's like,
Yeah, and I'm just so glad that you're here on our group, Kyle. So many of the conservatives out there that they don't really they don't speak up nearly enough. But I just hope they realize, like you just said, there's a very strong conservative argument to be made, particularly among the younger people. This is a sort of a more an older person's issue than a younger one's, and the people in school, they have no idea how bad it is. So it's usually they're in their late 20s by the time they figure it out. But
yeah, I mean, I didn't think I was screwed until, like, I had a master's degree, and I swear to God, in my industry, that employers rejected me because I thought I was overqualified. I swear to God, like, yes, definitely.
You can't win for losing or whatever.
This actually put me behind that 2 years of grad school, because a lot of people I'm working with that are my age are a lot higher up at these companies right now, and they didn't go to grad school. So it's like, experience is a very important part of, I don't know if it might help me years from now or whatever, but, like, it's kind of funny because he's not my boss, my boss's boss. He's a vice president. He worked his way up as an electrician, doesn't have any college at all, nothing. And he's like a VP now. And it's like, I don't care. He's a really cool guy. He's like, but I don't care about anybody's education. He says, I want to know what your enthusiasm is and everything. And it's like, oh shit, that makes me feel really good.
I know. Soon as you get out of college, the first thing you hear is, wow, you're an idiot for going to college, but oh well, welcome aboard. By the way, just so people out there know, we actually have a Harvard lawyer in our group who tells me she wishes she had become a plumber. So
You know how many, like part of the shame of student loans is like you get this thing where you're like thinking back in time how you could have did things differently, and it tortures you. It's like maybe I should have joined the military, or maybe I should have went to community college, or maybe I should have did this, or different ways. And it can really wreck your mental health thinking like that. So if anybody is thinking like that, just like stop, because it's gonna drive you nuts.
Hey, those are powerful words, man. I hope people are heeding them, because people need to realize this is not a bad borrower deal. This is a bad lending system. And if that's the only point that I can drive home tonight, that's the only point I want to make. People out there
another point was, I heard, what's his name? I forgot his name. The other guy that does the live streams, Ed. So Ed was like, literally, like, you could go out, get a credit card, get cash advance on it. Say you got like, I don't know, $3,000, blow it at a casino on like hookers and cocaine or whatever. And then
hookers and blow,
let that thing grow to like $50,000 in interest, not make one payment, and then claim bankruptcy through that. You know
right, I mean? Right. It's amazing. The things that you can get away with.
And people are telling you that you're irresponsible when someone like that, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I hate, I don't know. There's some of these conservative commentators, and they get up like this and they're like, well, part of being adult is part of being responsible and doing the right thing and everything like that. And it's like we were brainwashed into thinking that this was a responsible thing to do by our family, by peers, by teachers. You know what I mean?
Right. So. Very true. There's a guy, Grover Norquist. He's like he used to be a conservative darling, did the tax pledge, famous guy. He in fact coined the phrase that government should be small enough that if you had to, you could take it to the bath and drown it in the tub. I used to kind of like Grover, kind of appreciate his conservative thoughts. But Grover now is working for the swamp, and he's writing these papers that wag the finger at the borrowers. Say, this is a personal responsibility, as you need to pay your loans. And interestingly, this son of a bitch, pardon my French, Grover Norquist, he went out and got a huge PPP loan for his nonprofit organization that didn't lose a dime during the pandemic. So it's the hypocrisy on the right that really.
Well, another thing, another thing on the right is like, you got people like him, and they extract money from the federal government. Federal contractors for wars, like making weapons, or federal contractors building consulates in the middle of the desert. Right.
And we both know Washington, D.C. pretty well, and we can both agree that there are construction cranes on the horizon of D.C. from end to end. There's
that's what I do. Yes.
There's no recession in Washington, D.C. ever.
Well, they say this place is virtually recession proof, because I talked to some people. They said, times get harder here, but I'm saying, but you really want a job, you can get a job. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I lived in Philadelphia, and it's not like that. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I appreciate you coming on with us here tonight, Kyle. We're going a little bit over time here, so I probably have to wrap it up. But is there any final words of wisdom you'd like to share, or anything?
I'd say just make this more aware that you're not alone. And I would encourage people to really, join this group and start doing the daily actions. I mean, I don't do all of them, but I try to at least make an attempt to do that. I think that we need more people on this group. I think that if we had like a following of 500,000 people, this would really start accelerating things. But we're a grassroots organization, so we don't have that corporate to send out a mass email.
We don't have a marketing department. All we have is word of mouth, and people need to realize that the talking heads in Washington, D.C. are not going to solve this problem for us. We got to put our own effort and time into this fight. It's really kind of how that goes. And I appreciate everything you've been doing over the past few years, even from Iraq, ladies and gentlemen. Kyle was pitching in. He was doing the daily. He was getting stuff done. And, it's just so important. If people would only spend even 15 minutes a week on this, we would have this problem knocked out of the park in no time.
Yeah.
So,
but I'm just saying, people go through people say you're not even trying to pay your student loans. I mean, some people are doing everything possible, and it's just they can't. I tried going to Iraq, it didn't work out. because it was just destroying my mental health. I was working for a bad company at the time, and just saying, like, people are trying, like, stop judging them. Like, I mean, they've paid for years, tried a second job, and it's like they just can't put a dent in it. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like they're lazy.
Right. And so people out there know 80% of all borrowers either were not able to pay at all or were paying and paying and paying, but had increasing loan balances. So 80% of everybody was underwater on their student loans, even before the pandemic. So there's no reason to suffer in silence and walk around life with your tail between your legs. Just don't do that.
I'm just saying, I just don't want people to have that guilt that you're a freeloader or something like that. I just want to say that. And
yeah, for sure, man.
So.
Well, hey, thank you, Kyle. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Hope everybody, I'm so glad you came on just to mix it up a little bit. I get so sick and tired of being the only guy saying.
You want to answer a few comments, questions? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, good point. Let me look here. We've got quite a few more comments. Oh, holy cow. I can't get through them all.
We got another person who wants to be a guest, it looks like. I'd get out to them.
Gordon. Oh, I don't know about Gordon. He talks a lot. I'm a little worried about having Gordon on. Yeah, maybe we can do that, Gordon, at some point. So Leslie says it does hurt people's mental health. Kara says, same here. I was worth too much money, and now they hire fresh grads. Oh, that's to your previous comment. Rachel says,
hey, I had that before. Trust me. Like, I was mentoring an intern one day at my company. Didn't know anything about construction. 3 months later, she got offered a higher salary than me. I couldn't believe it. Like,
right. It's so funny how that happens. You realize how little your college degree is worth a lot of the time. So Rachel says, keep bringing on people to interview, Alan. This is awesome. I couldn't agree more, Rachel. I get so sick of seeing myself saying the same 5 things every night. Kara McDougall also says it is going for nefarious things, I am sure, and to push specific agendas. I think you're talking about the colleges and stuff, is my guess.
Colleges can kiss my ass. They're the biggest offenders in this whole thing.
Yes, they've been sitting in the catbird seat. They've remained above the fray up to this point. I don't think that's going to last much longer. I think a lot of people, if they don't solve this problem very quickly, they're going to be strongly inclined to go to their college campuses and start breaking things. Not that we would ever encourage that, but I could see that happening. So Leslie says, Fishman, people are embarrassed to talk about how much they owe regardless of their something, probably political affiliation, I'm guessing. Regardless of, I can't read it. Sorry, Leslie. Okay, guys. Well, hey, we got to cut this sucker off. Kyle, thank you again for joining us. Everybody out there, thanks for watching. I will be back on Wednesday. Our fearless co-leader, Ed McKinley, will be back tomorrow. This is the most important week in the history of this organization, ladies and gentlemen. What Kyle said, go to our website, Student Loan Justice, do a month worth of our daily actions. It will help. We need you.
I think one really simple thing you can do is just start inviting your Facebook friends, or tag, or not even invite, just invite them. Or, like, if don't write on their wall if you don't want them to know about it, just message them, invite them to this group, or do the same thing on Twitter. I think that's like the first step, is just getting more people. I can probably say for myself, I've got at least 20 people.
For sure.
For the last 2 years.
You can help loudly, you can help quietly. There's a million ways to help, and you don't have to put your ass out there. You don't need to make a fool out of yourself, etc. But we definitely need you out there, ladies and gentlemen. So thanks again, Kyle. I hope we should do this again sometime. This is great.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay. Definitely. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you on Wednesday. Ed will see you tomorrow. Good luck. Daily actions. Go to the website, studentloanjustice.org. Godspeed, and God bless everyone.